Alright, so for all of you out there who are a fan of my dev vlogs for Just a Game, welcome to the newest build, which is what's today? Since I'm still doing them by dates. Today is June 27th, 2013. This build, for those of you who have been keeping track, has quite a few differences from the previous build, and they're not all aesthetic. I mean, there are some aesthetic changes. As you can see, I finally have everything is transparent, so it actually looks sort of like a book. Some things I've removed because they don't really fit here in this area, so like you don't see the merits and flaws, advantages, disadvantages section down here, which has been removed. Similarly, I've removed the skill placeholder and spell placeholder from here, because that stuff really, it's valid more once you finally picked out how your character is going to look, and you are going into the final stage, which is rolling their gold, picking out their gear, and then picking out their skills, spells, advantages, and disadvantages. So that's all been moved to part 3, which is still in the works. Everything else, of course, works the same as before. You can roll your stats as many times as you want. There are some new changes here. Since I'm going to be launching the Indigogo campaign soon, I wanted to have some true content available. So what I've already done beforehand is I've commissioned an artist and gotten some initial artwork done. The Indigogo campaign phase 2 will finish off all the artwork for all these characters and all these classes. And of course, every build is playable up until I finally get to the beta. And what you'll see here is as we change race, or rather gender, the images here change. So I've got one for the humans, I've got one for the high elves, obviously more have to be done. If you click on, say, a human to set your race. Computer's lagging a bit at the moment, I'm sorry about that. You'll see it show up here, and you've got the blood purity system here as before. I can do elf, add him on. What you'll see is if I click on his picture, yes, the central portrait now changes. I do this, it changes that. Switch over to female, it'll update the sides here, but it will not update the central picture since that's a choice you make. But you can see it's easy a matter of click here, swap between the two. As always, there's always bugs to work out. What you'll notice in this build that is really new is I've added this info box here, right under the picture, which gives all the relevant details about the race. So, for example, humans have a height range of 150 centimeters, well, human female, so height range of 150 centimeters to 170 centimeters, roughly 4'11" to 5'6". Their average lifespan is 43 years. It says here that it is not a modifier race and is standalone on its own. For example, vampires are a modifier race. So if I were to click vampire here, you can see average lifespan, ageless. Vampires are requires another race to act as a baseline. Then we've got the racial descriptions here. If it's a race, it actually has a stat modifier. And this is based upon your clicks over here. So, you don't have to worry about stuff vanishing here. As long as you click on something here, you'll get the detailed information. And of course, you can always unclick it if you don't want to make it your final race. But while you're making your choices, you just click on it and you'll see all the information here. You'll see all your stat bonuses, which of course are reflected down here. But you'll also see them here listed out in straight form. My original notes for humans had to be a choice, but there's just so much. I mean, there's already so many things you have to click on and switch and change between. So I made humans a little bit simpler, and they basically get +5 to everything. As you'll notice, if you look on, say, high elves, it's the 5 is not a high point or a low point. The standard advantage point is 16. You get 4 stats that are +16, 1 stat that's +12, and 4 stats that are -8. That's the standard. You go to Wood Elf, you'll see that their numbers are a little bit different. You'll see their average lifespan, you'll see their height ranges, and the height ranges do vary by gender. And they also vary by races. Let me see here and pull up High Elf again. Click all these off first, so it's not too cluttered. Go to High Elf. Here's a high elf female. Their average lifespan is 214 years. Their height range is 107, is basically 5'6" to 6'2". So the average high elf is taller than your average human. Now, if I just switch it over to male, you'll notice that their average height is 6 feet to 6'11", with an average lifespan of 210. So for high elves, for example, they live 4 years longer as a female. And of course, I've worked out all the stats for everything up through and including this one, squirrel or rat. So we've got the wood elves and all their attributes are listed there. The gremlins, the goblins, the hobgoblins, the drow, the vampires, and the squirrels. And even though it's not finished on all the other ones, you can see all the generic information here. And of course, the class system has been heavily fixed up since the last time we saw it. You'll see over here that as you add classes, it just comes in on the right side. Obviously, once I actually have the artwork done for them, you'll see them here. You can scroll down if you have a lot of them. Set your blood purity here. List your total number of classes up there, and there is no limit. Now, here is a key thing I want to point out that has been modified in this. Even though there isn't too much to see at this point about the next stage, you'll notice that even at this stage of development, I've got with the blood purity system, if it is larger, and you'll notice now that even though it defaults to full blood, your race purity level is set to 0, so you are forced to go in here and set something. And as you'll notice, if your blood purity is larger than 1 or less than 1, this is grayed out. So let's go with 15/16 and then do a simple little 1/16 here. And then only then can you click the next button. Now currently, if you click the next button, all it does is clear the screen, because I haven't finished the next page section. But as you can see, there's a lot of work that's been done here. There's a lot of scrolling sections in here. You can see your total attributes down here, just calculated based upon your attributes for your races, just multiplied by, their percentile. And now, one thing to keep in mind is if your blood purity is 1/8 or less, it's not added down here. Because at 1/8, all you get is the racial feature, racial skill, which hasn't been implemented yet, obviously. And at 1/16, you get a half value of that skill. But if it's above 1/8, then it'll get calculated down here. Like, for example, if I were to set this to 13/16, and I guess I'll go 5/16. That's still too much. So we'll go down to 11/16. There we go. But you'll see the numbers reflect down there. But if I were to change this to 1/16, you'll notice those numbers will drop because, well, a big attribute bonus has been cut out. So that system's in place. We've got the scrolling system here. The base attribute system here. Clearly, the game has still got a lot of work to be done, but as you can see, it's coming along quite well. And yes, this goes up my Twitch TV first, which obviously doesn't have a description section, well, an easy description section. But you'll also see it soon up on my YouTube. When it's up on my YouTube, you'll see a link to the Indigogo campaign, where you can contribute to see the game progress at a faster pace, because I won't have to wait, 2-3 weeks to get money that I can then put towards the artist, who then has to take up to a week to draw the artwork, and then I have to spend a couple of days putting it into the system and setting it up like that. And there's a lot of overhead with making a game, and when you have to pay it out of pocket, it just takes a lot longer. Because the coding I do all the time. I'm always refining the coding. But here we go. This is today's build. As you can see, there's been a lot of work done. There's a lot of content that's been added here. And with your help, we can make it move a lot faster. Once again, I am Indogo LLX. I am your developer. And if you have questions, feel free to send them in the comments. Send them into the comments for my YouTube version of this, or at any of the number of forums where I have posted my info on the game. Goodbye, and I don't want you to show me that message again. Windows 7.